Finally, he said he's within 100 yards, and he turns around and he sees one guy walking around out there. He hadn't noticed Shackleton. He sees him, starts yelling to him, and the guys, of course, starts yelling back, and Shackleton screams. He wants to know the truth. How many of you are left? And he's just waiting. He said he closed his eyes. He's just waiting. Please, somebody, please more, please more. And the guy yells back, all of us, sir. And of course, by then, the people in the shack are like, who's he talking to, right? It's going crazy. They had given up looking a month ago. They figured he had drowned, hadn't made it. So they all come back. Every single one of those guys gets home. Over, some of them, 2.5 years from when they left. A year after their funeral. They all get home. One guy's wife had remarried. She thought he was dead. But other than that, it's an incredible story of survival. So, of course, Shackleton is interviewed time and time again. How did you do it? He said, he's not a man of many words. He cleans up really well. He said, this is also my favorite sweater. And then he said, difficulties are just things to overcome, after all. Really? Really? Is that how you see your problems when they come? Ah, wonderful. Another thing to overcome. That's not how I see my problems. I curl up in the fetal position and say, please go away. Right? And he says, oh yes, a mountain to climb. They asked him if he would go back. He said, of course I'll go back. He does go back a number of times. I believe it is in our nature to explore, to reach out into the unknown. The only true failure would be not to explore at all. The only true failure would be not to explore at all. Now, how he survived on the sea is understandable because he's the greatest sailor, right, at that point in the history of the world, people believe. But how did he make it over those mountains? No one had ever made a climb over those mountains. Never. No one had ever made a climb like that ever in the history of the world. How did you do it? Here's what he said. When I look back at those days, I do not doubt that providence guided us. That's his name for God. I don't know if you guys know this, especially you younger people, but it used to be the majority of the world believed in God. They loved him and talked about him, and they've forgotten him. But not Shackleton. He says, I know that during that long march over the unnamed mountains and glaciers of South Georgia, it often seemed to me that we were 4, not 3. There were 4 of us there, not 3 of us there. Isn't that wonderful, right? Can you picture this angel climbing with them? He's like, this is great. Step there, ooh, this is good, right? And then down the other side, woo-hoo-hoo! Snowboarding angel behind him, woo! Right? Absolutely incredible. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell the person next to you what you learn about being an unconquerable spirit from Ernest Shackleton. Tell them to go first. Turn to them and tell them to go first. What do you learn about being an unconquerable spirit from Ernest Shackleton? Go. All right. If I had to choose one thing that I learned, there's many things to learn from this story, and I hope you can talk about them after the fireside tonight. But one thing I would probably focus on is the idea that if you don't back off, you can change your own odds. Right? If you don't give up, you can change your odds. I remember Henry Knox. I don't remember him. We never met. But Henry Knox wrote a letter to his wife about George Washington and the Revolution. And in that letter, he said something very simple. He said, perseverance accomplished what at first was impossible. I mean, the revolution is absolutely impossible. Those of you who studied it, the idea of 13 separate colonies uniting against the greatest army and navy in the world, right? But Henry Knox said, we just didn't quit. And slowly, when you don't quit, the odds change.